Hi, everyone. Welcome to our quick 30-minute webinar. My name is Phil Corbin, Marketing Director here at Variphy. I'm here today with Matt Sykes and Dan Schmidt, our superstar systems engineers. And in today's webinar, we're going to cover Cisco CDR reporting, more specifically, how to find dormant and or underutilized phones or users. We're going to start off with a quick overview of Variphy and what we do. We'll jump into a live demo, show you an in-depth demo of our CDR reporting and how it makes it easy to identify dormant phones or end users that haven't made or received any or a minimum number of calls so that call managers, UCM licenses can be reclaimed and reassigned. We'll pause for Q&A, get some of your questions answered. During the demo, if you have any questions you can think of, make sure to ask them in the Q&A panel at the bottom right of your screen. We'll get those answered. After Q&A, we are going to reward one lucky attendee a $50 Amazon gift card. So hang around, see what you may have won. So quick overview of Variphy. We are the preferred analytics and management solution for Cisco collaboration. We provide industry-leading CDR reporting and analytics, customizable dashboards and widgets, CCX reporting, remote phone control, change management, DN, DID, dial plan management. But today we're focusing on CDR reporting, more specifically, how to find dormant or underutilized phones or users. If you have any other questions on any of our other features, we can most definitely take them offline and get those answered. So with us today, we have Matt Sykes, who's going to take us through CDR reporting and how to find dormant or underutilized devices. So Matt, I'm going to pass you the ball.
All right, thank you, Phil.
Sure. Passing you the ball now.
Let's grab the appropriate screen. We are okay.
Awesome.
Welcome, everyone. My name, once again, is Matt Sykes with Variphy. Thank you for the introduction, Phil. Today's topic within the webinar we will be covering is how to report on dormant or underutilized phones and or users. So at the moment, everyone should be able to see my lab instance dashboard that I have here at the moment. So what we'll do first is I'm going to tunnel us right into the call analytics reporting, because the first thing that I want to do is take a quick look at raw CDR before we go ahead and cultivate this report. So what I will do real briefly here is just look at some sample CDR that I have within our environment. I know that my lab, I believe, I need to look at a current week. So mainly for this report, to identify the devices, our eyes are going to kind of circle around the originating device name as well as the terminating device name. Now, when it comes to the end users in the secondary report, I will be using different fields there, which we will get to. So to start off with, looking to identify dormant or underutilized phones within the UCM environment, for this exercise, we'll be keying off of the physical Cisco devices, so the SCP devices. Those will be our main pieces of criteria that we will be querying within the UCM CDR. But we will be keying off of these two fields here, the device fields, originating and terminating device name. So I was looking at those very briefly off of our ad hoc search. If I wanted to, I could easily utilize a search set that I know that I'll be constructing for said report. Keying off of originating or terminating device name, I will be looking for a pattern that begins with only SCP. This is a quick example here for current week data. It'll give me one or the other, originating or terminating with SCPs. So that will pull back these records here. So these are not the phones that we would be looking for, but this will at least kind of train your eyes a little bit with your own native CDR and how to appropriate a search set for it, whether or not it's an SCP device or maybe some type of some soft phone devices within the UCM environment. Those can be utilized as well with the same methodology. So with knowing that information, we're going to go right into the report section for our UCM style reports. Now, I already have a couple built for it, but I'm going to build from the ground up. So we will create a history report. I will simply name this one dormant phone test 1. Okay, just giving that a simple report name there. But knowing what we know from the raw CDR perspective, we will need to create a search set for the combined field of both of those originating and terminating UCM devices. For a moment. duplicate this search set name here. So I'm going to search criteria for that exact combination field of originating or terminating device name. From there, I will add the criteria for it, modify the conditional Boolean operator to a starts with, specify SCP so that I can query only the Cisco hard devices that I'm looking for. So that is all I'm going to need within the search set configuration piece. Now the magic actually happens in the grouping statistics. We will need to enable the grouping. And within the grouping, we have the one primary grouping type. For that, we will use the same corresponding field we used within our search set, which will be originating or terminating device name. And we'll also need to identify grouping filters. So to identify dormant or underutilized devices, we will need to specify a minimum and a max count. Now, if we're looking for complete dormant, zero activity whatsoever, we would easily just populate this with a 0. So 0 minimum, 0 maximum. But then we'll also need to create a grouping search set. So we can list out a grouping of the devices that have dormant, 0 activity. Search set name, and we will use that same corresponding field, originating, terminating device name. Same pattern with the conditional Boolean operator of starts with, and the SCP or the device pattern that we're looking to capture. That is all I should need from the grouping statistics perspective. So we have the originating search set specifying any devices that originate or terminate with an SCP acronym device name. We're going to group those by that same field, originator, terminating device name, and then specify minimum maximum counts for the dormancy and 0 activity, as well as then define a specific search set so we can capture those with that 0 activity. So with that, we will provide in the grouping summary, out of the box, total call count, average call duration, average ring duration, and total call duration. We don't need all 4. They can be subtracted, or if additional ones are needed for maybe direction of call, maybe originating or terminating, if we needed to add those in there for counts of the underutilized for in and outbound, we can certainly do that as well. But for now, I'm just going to use the out-of-the-box metrics. Combing down the list to the search set statistics. Now, the search set statistics based off of our search set are going to give us results. So over our time frame, once we run the report. So they're going to give us results for any device, any traffic that's originating or terminating with an SCP device. But we don't need that for the sake of this report. So we're actually going to disable that because I don't want top summarized counts to confuse with the groupings of the dormancy below. So that is all we'll need there. The call to history detail, since we know that we're pointing at dormant or non-active devices, we don't need to see any detail because there's probably not any detail to surmise for the report. So that should be all we need there. Make sure the cradle to grave is turned off, which it should be by default. We will save this, and now I will use this dormant phone test 1. Hit the play button for it. Give me my delivery options. PDF is fine. Search time window. It will default to current day. I'm going to want to throw a wider net, or lack of activity, if you will. So I'll throw maybe previous 3 months. But definitely do know that we have all the timeframes needed from from relative, from year to date, as well as at the very top. We do have the specifics. I will just use previous 3 months. Run this. Open up a nice report for me here. So here I am. I have a handful, more than a handful, of dormant devices. So here are all the originator terminating devices. Here are the max for them with their total call counts of 0 based off of our minimum and maximum definitions within the grouping filters. And we'll list out the description and device pool and then the extra data columns that we included within the grouping section. So from a high level, that is how we would easily construct a dormant phone report within the customer's UCM environment, within the Variphy application. Furthermore, that what we could also do, let me edit this real quickly. If we wanted to key off of then underutilized phones, not so much dormant, we could potentially put a maybe a higher minimum on the grouping definitions as maybe a 1, and maybe throw whatever the preferable total max count would be for a specific customer or specific environment. Maybe it's just 10, maybe it's 50, whatever the preference may be. But all we would need to do is just modify that to give us then what would be considered in each environment an underutilized device. Now, I do know that my my lab environment here for the SCP devices does not have any moderately used devices, so I'm not going to even try to put in a cap of 10 here, but I will with the users. And that's kind of where I'm shifting gears to right now, as we're going to go ahead and create a dormant user report. From the dormant user report, it's going to be the same configuration methodology. So from the groupings, my apologies. So we will definitely need a search set. So users. But we will need to specify more of a department or user ID based search. So for that, we are going to use originating. Here we are. Originating, dialed, or terminating CUCM department. We're going to use this three-piece combo field here to key off of exactly what we want to pull in for dormant users. Now, obviously, we will need to point at specific departments. So I'm just going to grab out of my lab here, maybe just the top 5, we'll say. There's a couple sales ones that are in there, so this should be applicable. But I will definitely need to replicate these departments within my grouping search sets as well, which I will show you in a moment. So from the search sets from a dormant user perspective, all we're going to need is just the main search criteria, which will be this combination field here, nothing else. Then we'll need to go next door to the grouping statistics, enable the groupings, but the primary grouping type is not going to be that same field. It's actually going to be a combination end user ID field, which is right here. Bear with me. Originating. There we are. Originating, dialed, or terminating CUCM end user ID. So based off of the search set keying off of those 5 departments, we're telling the groupings then within the application to then group it by the specific end user IDs based off of those 5 departments. So within here, same rules apply for the grouping filter. If we want a 0 to 0, we can get the complete dormancy, and then we'll come back and maybe modify this from 1 to 10 or something along those lines. So we will, but once again, we will still need a grouping search set for this. Dormant users, test 1. Specify the department field once again. Department, correct. I will add the top 5 departments as I did in the previous search set definition page. Okay, so I have my primary grouping as the combined end user ID field, which is correct. I have the dormancy counts on minimum and maximum set. That is correct. And I have the user search, the grouping search set criteria based off of those 5 departments that we had previously specified. Search set statistics, I will need to go ahead and turn that off, not to muddy the waters, as well as the call history, which we do not need. So we will go ahead and save that. Dormant users 1, we will go ahead and the play button for that. Delivery PDF is just fine for me. Obviously, you have options of all 4 of the main primary output formats, as well as email delivery and FTP by search time window. Okay, I did want it to be 3 months as well. Okay, let's go ahead and run this now. And then this report results will give me exactly what I was looking for, about 8 or 9 end users that have completely no usage at all for the past 3 months, outside of current month, I suppose. Okay, so this is easily reachable and definable just with a couple minutes of configuring the report for this, for these, I guess, dormant end users. But then let's just one more that, as I mentioned. So I will just piggyback off of this. I will copy that same exact report. Call it test 2. And within the grouping statistics, I will make the minimum now a 1, and we'll say the maximum to a 10. As I would specify that range to be my underutilized activity for the user in the environment. Okay, dormant user test 2. I will go ahead and play that. Should inherit the same time frame. Correct, it did. Go ahead and run that, and we'll look at the PDF results. Okay, and now I have a handful of users now that would be maybe potentially viewed as underutilized users, especially if they're in a sales department making out, and their job is to have some type of monthly quota for outbound sales calls. I don't think these singular ones would make the grade, if you will. So that is how we would customize an underutilized report. We would do that the same way for the devices as well. So this is definitely a combination now of devices, step 1, and then user step 2 if we need to see them in a dormancy or an underutilized capacity. So at the moment, I suppose that kind of wraps up what I have for dormancy and underutilized phones and or devices. So at this moment, I will say thank you all for attending, and I will pass it back over to Phil and Dan for Q&A. Thank you.
Great. Awesome. Thank you, Matt. All right. Do we have any questions on anything Matt took us through here? Any questions on search sets, running the report?
So we do have a few here.
Okay.
Question is coming from John. John asks, can I do the same thing with the underutilized phones, but instead use device type so I could get an idea of my Jabber adaptation? So yes, of course. So one of our search criteria and grouping options can piggyback off of the originating and terminating device description. So instead of choosing the actual device name like Matt picked, you would simply pick device description. And so we're actually going out to UCM and we're matching up and we're pulling the device descriptions. That then gives you an idea by model type. You can do, sorry, not description, but device type. You'll see your iPhone jabbers versus your Windows jabbers versus your Android jabbers versus your hard phones by model. So you get a good idea of the types of devices not making any phones. This then says, hey, the majority of my people deciding to still use their desk phone when they're fully equipped to use soft phones, right? So we could even get to that level of granularity as well.
Great.
And a question from Nicole. Nicole says, Matt was discussing dormant user, the dormant user report. How are we successfully matching up users with departments? So Nicole, that really just comes down to our integration or with Call Manager and the actual capabilities. So based off of one of 4 different facts, we can match up the end user profiles within your Call Manager, and we're simply pulling the department field out of that profile and associating it to the call. So when you say find me calls in those 4 departments, we have the ability to say, look at those 4 departments, pull the users across, and then only show me the users with 0 phone calls or between the min and max values that Matt showed us. Hopefully that answers your question, Nicole. Thank you. Carl has a question. It says, can you also run it based off of extension? The underutilized part, yes. So we want to, instead of grouping by a device or whatever, you're just going to say group by original called or final called party number. And so that we would get it that way. We have another question from Paul. Paul says, am I able to see the top 10 people by volume? So kind of opposite of the underutilized phones here, but same concept here is where Matt was showing that grouping, that min max volume. Right above that, there was a top 10 top number selection there. You would just simply select the top N and keep those values blank, the min max values blank. So that would show you by volume top 10 people for positive call volume instead of the underutilized, which we were talking about today. Carl also asked, can you run this for underutilized trunks? Yeah, of course. So that if you use SIP trunks, the SIP trunk name, or if you're using traditional PRIs, the S0, the endpoint name as logged by Call Manager, that gets trickled down into Call Manager as well. So that will be the one of the originating or terminating device names. So instead of specifically querying out devices with SCP like Matt showed us, you would just open that up and gear it towards your trunk device names. Of course. Good question, Carl. Thank you. Any other questions? Yep, we could certainly show you. We'll set up some time with you, Carl, to show you how to set that up. Sure. Yep, we'll be reaching out to you after the meeting.
Any other questions? Going once.
We just got one more question.
All right.
sorry, is the department pulled from UCM? Yes. So the department, we're relying on the department field out of end user profile within Call Manager. So as long as we're able to successfully match CDR data to your end user profiles, and that can be done via controlled device name on end user profile, primary telephone extension, or sorry, primary extension, the telephone number field. A lot of times this is all pulled from Active Directory in regards to your Call Manager. But yeah, as long as we're matching that, we're going to pull all that information back. And so yeah, department is coming from Call Manager, the end user profile and Call Manager. Thank you for the question.
Really great questions. We have time here, so if you have any questions, we get them answered. If you think of any after the webinar, we can definitely reach out and get those questions answered as well. Any other questions? All right. The moment we've all been waiting for. And the winner is Mark Pratt. Congrats. You have won a $50 Amazon gift card. We will be reaching out shortly after the webinar and getting your details. So congrats, Mark. And a big thank you. Thanks for attending today. Make sure to register for upcoming webinars. Next Wednesday, we'll be kind of continuing on cradle to grave reporting and more specifically related to UCCX. So please go to our website, variphy.com, company, and then webinars, and you can sign up for that. And again, we always host a webinar 11 a.m. Pacific. So if you aren't sure, we're usually hosting a variety of topics each Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific. So thanks again. If you have any other questions, please reach out to Matt, Dan, or myself. Have a great day.